All right, I believe we're live. Hi, I'm Jackie with Military Saves, and we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're talking about love and money, two very exciting topics. And with me are the lovely ladies of Military Saves. We've got Angela Caban and Lila Quintiliani. Thank you so much for being with us. Our last evening money chat was in December, and it was such a blast with shopping confessions. We knew we just had to do it again. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We hope that you weigh in with your stories, your questions, your comments. Just as a quick reminder, here at Military Saves, we're a nonprofit organization who's dedicated to helping the military community save money, reduce debt, and build wealth. And so tonight, when we're talking love and money, what you can expect, we're going to share some of our stories, some of our preferences, maybe some mishaps, a couple of confessions, but as always, we're going to share some tips to help you along the way. So thank you for tuning in. Well, let's just jump right into it. So, I guess before we start, ladies, I want to pose a question. Do you think that saving money is a form of self-care, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So I see it as if you're stressed out about your finances, you're not going to be able to take care of yourself the way you should, or others in your family unit, whether that be your spouse, your children. You're just going to be able to be like stress-free. And, so for me, I do think it is a form of self-care. You have to have those conversations with your spouse and just be open and honest about what's going on. I don't think it's very healthy for you to hide it and to think that, kind of not talking about it, right, makes it go away. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I know that sometimes if you spend too much money, I know personally I have, because I felt bad, or like at the beginning of COVID, I was ordering food constantly because I was just too tired to cook. And the next thing you know, I thought, gosh, we need groceries. And I've just blown so much food, for each individual meal. And then you just kind of feel guilty. But if you know that instead of making impulse buys, and maybe you're planning your vacation, planning your gifts, planning your meals, that's going to help you feel better, more confident, and less stressed. So I also agree that saving is a great way to practice self-care. How about you, Lila?
Yeah, I agree. I think that like the big retailers, the big box stores, they're trying to kind of trick us into thinking that if we spend money on stuff, that is, self-care. Like if I have, if I buy myself, an expensive handbag or something, that I'm really taking care of myself. But I try to look at it as, if I'm saving money, putting it away, then I'm taking care of my future self. Like when I have a flat tire, then I have a way to pay for it. Or, like when I put money in my retirement savings, I'm not just like throwing that money away. I'm saving for future me, for, old lady Lila. But, seriously, it's sometimes hard. It's hard for people to save when they're younger, because they have a hard time visualizing what they're saving for, but they're really saving for themselves. So it is definitely a form of self-care.
Yeah.
Great. I absolutely agree. And for those of you who would like some assistance with your savings journey, you're welcome to please take our Military Saves Pledge. We'll be sure to drop a link there to help you. We can encourage you in so many different areas. It could be retirement, could be travel, it could be emergency funds. So we definitely encourage you to take that pledge and get started on your savings journey. All right. So now that we've got some of the formalities out of the way, why don't we start with confessions, just to be fun? Because love and money, they can go together really well, or they can cause problems. They can cause stress. Maybe you feel guilty because you spent too much or not enough. And so I guess, Angela, I'll go ahead and start with you. What would your confession be when it comes to love and money?
I'm in the hot seat first, right? So it's hard to admit this when you're older, because when you're young and you're in love and you're starting your life out together, you're always thinking about the more that you have, right? Or the things that you want. So for us, or I should say for myself, I think my confession when it comes to love and money is that we spent way too much money on our wedding. I look back now and it's like, wow, we could have done it 1, 2, 3 quick, gone to like the courthouse and then put that money in savings, or just really been financially, you know, in a good place. So for us, between, you know, the little bit that we had and then the money that my parents, you know, put into our wedding as well, which is at the time, I couldn't even believe that that was like a priority for me. You know, I was only 20 years old when I got married. My husband was a little bit older. But I mean, you think about those lessons that you learn along, you know, the way. Like, we had nothing. We got married. We weren't necessarily in debt. We just had no money. You know, we had a 1-bedroom apartment. You know, I had to take furniture from my parents' house because we couldn't afford to buy anything. So I think if I could do things differently, it would be, or teach my children, you know, a lesson, it would be that it's not necessarily about the big flashy, you know, parties and events. You know, we're feeding all these people for a couple hours, and then what? You're going home and you have no money. Like, so yeah, it was definitely an eye opener for us in like the first couple of years of marriage. I know they say the first couple of years are the hardest, especially when you're broke. So, you know, we learned a lot of really hard lessons in regards to spending that much money when you don't have it. That's another thing too. So yeah, that was a hard one to learn.
Excellent. So that one day is something you were still thinking about years later when you didn't have the money to, you know, travel or do what you wanted to do as a married couple. I think a lot of people fall into that. And I remember all the big shows on TLC, and it was all these big weddings and Say I Do or Yes to the Dress, and everybody was having these big soirees. And I remember my parents kept saying, you know, oh, you're spending so much money. And I was like, ours isn't that much. I have friends spending $40,000 on the day, and, you know, and I thought I was being moderate, but now I look back and I think, yeah, that is a lot for just a matter of hours. So
yeah, and I even know a lot of like my military spouse friends that did just the justice of the peace, and they didn't like, they regretted not having such a big wedding, right, Lila? So to me, it's like, well, good for you. You saved all that money. And I do think like society and like different like cultural, you know, because I come from a really big, you know, Hispanic family. So for us, it's like, if you didn't have the big wedding, like, well, why aren't you having the big wedding? You know, like, what's wrong? And it's just, there's a lot of pressure into spending all that money. And I think we have to have those conversations, like you said, like it's about what you can do, right?
I think that's a great point. I think there's a lot of societal pressure to spend money, especially to show, you know, for show, to show other people.
Right. Right.
And I think that I do kind of blame like TLC and HGTV for people, you know, wanting to spend so much money. They have to fix up their, you know, they watch something on HGTV and then all of a sudden not everybody can afford granite countertops and, you know, whatever else, hardwood floors and all this other stuff that people are trying to put in their house, or having a, you know, $100,000 wedding and all of that. It's unrealistic, but we're encouraged to spend so that other people can see us spending. And, you know, it's hard not to get caught up in that. I have to, you know, resist it myself. So we did get married by a justice of the peace, but just because we were dual military at the time and we had very little time. So we had to kind of, you know, fit it in that way. But we are hoping that it's going to be our 25th wedding anniversary this year.
Oh.
So we are hoping that by December that we will be able to, you know, to celebrate it somehow. That was what my plan had been. You know, we didn't have the big wedding, but I wanted to have a big kind of a, you know, trip or something for our big anniversary. So
I think that's incredible. And it goes to show you don't have to spend a ton on that day. Look at you, you're still happily married 25 years later. You know, it doesn't mean that the more or the less you spend on that wedding, you know, it's going to predict any sort of outcome with your marriage. I mean, I guess if you do spend a lot, then yes, you're going to feel that for a little bit. When I first got married, I actually came in with debt. I had student loan debt because I was in school during that period where everyone pushed it and they said, this is good debt. But it was just debt. It was money I didn't have. And then because I didn't have that money, I also acquired credit card debt. So I obviously was very open and transparent about it. I didn't lie or hide about it. But I will say that put a damper on things for several years, because anytime we would want to treat ourselves or do something, it was like, ooh, we should probably pay the debt down versus, you know, go out to eat or go on a vacation. And it just kind of hangs over you. So I guess the advice here is just make sure to not live, I mean, make sure to live within your means and don't feel pressured by anyone to spend the money, because if the love is there, the love is there. You know?
Yes.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, Lila, what would your confession be that relates to money?
It's not so much about love and money, but it does have to do with kind of the status spending. I used to be like super embarrassed to admit that I like to go thrift shopping and I like to buy things at consignment stores and stuff like that. And now I guess the older I get, I'm way more open about it. And my kids actually think it's cool, you know, to go they think it's an adventure to go shopping in a thrift store. So, and they buy stuff all the time on like Mercari and all these online auction sites. So they think to them, it's like totally normal. But I remember, you know, somebody asked me something once like, oh, where'd you get that? And I was kind of, you know, afraid to admit that I had bought it at a consignment store, but it was something that was, you know, a very expensive brand, but I had gotten it for a few dollars, but I was embarrassed to admit it. So I kind of hid it, but I don't anymore.
Good. I'm all for that. I've done that as well. And I've made some amazing finds. I think one of our last chats, I talked about how I found a ball gown for a red carpet event for $8. And you
I know
nobody knew it was $8.
And you
And
can
I
brag
knew-
about that. That's a good thing to brag. Like, where'd you get that dress? I love it. Oh, I only spent $8 on it. Like, that's
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
And my new favorite thing are buy nothing groups. I don't know if your community has them,
Yes.
but they're very popular around here. And so like when I'm trying to clean out stuff, as I'm often trying to get rid of stuff, because when you move with the military all the time, you don't want a bunch of stuff. So, you know, they have all these buy nothing groups on Facebook, and you get rid of stuff, but you can also get stuff. So it's fun. It's really fun. Kind of a
I think
fun
we
community.
talked a little bit about that, Lila, remember on our last.
Yeah.
And
I haven't
remember
done
how
it as
many
much. Now I'm doing it more and more every
Right,
week.
yeah. And I don't know what it is about those groups too. I think they almost like, especially after like this pandemic and everybody being on lockdown, it kind of like opened our eyes about like the important things in life. And I just love seeing everybody just kind of giving. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting something up for sale. I think we talked a little bit about that back in December. Especially, you know, if it's like a really, you know, expensive item. However, it's just so
Yeah.
nice to see people just giving things and saying, well, it's
Right.
not something that I can use anymore. So please, someone. And
Exactly. Rather
It's
than
so-
throw it away, or even just things like the gift of time, like my Buy Nothing group
Yes.
recently, they got a bunch of people made hundreds of Valentines to give to a home for the elderly. So they were collecting all these things, and they shared the picture, you know, a couple days ago, that of all the hundreds of Valentines they had collected by just people in the Buy Nothing group having their kids, and you know, some of them I guess were adults too making them, and
that's so
I just
sweet.
thought it was very sweet.
Yeah.
I think that segues into you don't have to spend money to show love. And I think that's wonderful to include that as a lesson to your kids. We just sent my grandmother today a Valentine that we just made out of construction paper, and she's 93.
Aw.
She's living in assisted living, but it's going to make her day. And it was just something that we put some time and effort into, and it didn't cost.
Yes.
You know, cost
That's beautiful. Sometimes it's a nice reminder to see the actions, right? Like you don't necessarily have to like spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a gift. It's something that you do, you know, for your loved ones. That's really, and I think that the older we get too, we're realizing that those are the things that matter most, you know, in life.
Absolutely. Well, so with that in mind, since Valentine's Day is right around the corner, do you have any sort of advice or tip for a low cost or no cost way to celebrate Valentine's Day?
You know, that's such a good question. So last Valentine's Day, we decided, I mean, we did go out, which is so funny because I feel like it was like our last date night before the pandemic. So we had that opportunity, but what we did do is we found a local, you know, business here. We actually frequent this restaurant very much. It's right down the road from us. And it was one of those Valentine's Day specials, like entree, dessert, and a glass of champagne for $39.99 or $49.99. I can't remember what it was. And I said, oh, this is great. You know, it's such a great deal. However, this year I had mentioned the same thing where it's like, oh, we should go and support our local business. And we actually, for the first time this year, we decided we are not going to buy each other presents. This is the first time that. I mean, not that it's really like a big thing in this house, because my husband's really good at surprising me with like little things here and there, like flowers, just little special things to make me happy throughout the day. But this year, I think we're putting more focus on the fact that we have the opportunity as a couple to kind of reconnect after this incredible year that we've just had, right? Being stuck at home, not being able to travel and do the normal things that we honestly take for granted in life. So I think for us, it's less about that, like going out and spending a ton of money, and more about reflecting on the experiences. So I think everybody should kind of do what works for them. So I'm not going to say, oh, don't spend money, because if you want to go out and, treat yourself, especially if you've been stuck at home, then do so, However, for us, I think we're going to spend more time just really taking that opportunity to just be grateful for what we have. It's not about more and more and more. It's just about what we have. And I was actually just talking to him not that long ago about, remember when we were, again, young and in love? I mean, we're still in love, but young and broke, right? And wishing for the things that we have now. So it's a really good opportunity for us. Like we always say, Valentine's Day is every day here in this house, but during Valentine's especially, it's important to remember, when we really didn't have much, and we kind of, take this day to remember that. So I think that's my advice to don't put so much pressure on yourself, especially if you can't do something big. Just enjoy each other's company. Have a nice little dinner at home.
I love that. And I think it's good to really appreciate what you have, because you're so right. There was a time once where you longed for this, and now look, here you are. And you can do so many things. I know just for me, quality time is big. And that's something I try to teach to my children is, the handmade cards are nice, or acts of service. And my kids have learned that I like breakfast in bed. So they'll just do that. And it just takes a few minutes. But to me, it's so nice to have the gesture. Yeah. And I know that you probably heard about the book, the 5 languages of, the love languages. And I'm not sure if you're across that at all, but for me personally, I do love acts of service and words of affirmation. Like, it doesn't always have to be some sort of material good. And so that's very good when it comes to money, for sure. How about you, Lila? Do you have any advice?
Well, I mean, I think when we were first together, we would try to give each other gifts, but my husband has always said he doesn't believe in like the commercial holiday that we're pushed. Hallmark pushes us to have to give each other stuff, and he says, I don't need anyone to tell me that I love you anyway. But I remember he said that one year, and he's like gave me some flowers. He's like, here, but like as if he was being forced to. So it was kind of funny. But he does buy me flowers sometimes. And I told him this year he could buy me wine, and he actually just bought me some champagne. So
great gift.
Yeah, I'm gonna chill for
My
Valentine's
man
Day.
bought me flowers, and I had 24 roses. They're now down to this last one, but I bought him wine. So we've got a long distance relationship. So right now it is gifts. But yeah, it is nice if you do want to show it that way. That's good. But I do agree. Don't feel pressured.
No,
Like
I mean,
don't spend way too much money if it's not something,
No. And to me, I'm happier actually when he does something like he cleans the kitchen at night, which he does a lot. Like if I get tired, I get tired, I go to bed, and then he'll clean the kitchen, which is so awesome. And then, or like cleaning my car, which periodically, when you have kids that you're driving around and your car gets gross, when he cleans my car, that's so much better that to me now, as a grown up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's so much better than having, a box of chocolates or even jewelry. I don't know. To me,
so I guess your love language then would be acts of service then too.
Yes, definitely.
See, I've never taken the quiz, Jackie.
I haven't either.
I would probably say mine is probably the same, because we've been getting a lot of snow lately here in New Jersey. And for me, like when I wake up in the morning really early and I go to take my daughter to school and I realize that my husband has cleaned my car off for me before he goes to work, that to me is like best husband in the world. Like it is the littlest thing, but that means more to me than, you know, I mean, if he wants to buy me a trip to Europe, I mean, I'm not going to argue, but.
Right. I mean, jewelry is great too, right? It's fine.
That
We're
too.
not going to say no. If you're all listening.
Yes, wink, wink, honey.
Okay, well then, okay, so we've talked specifically about Valentine's Day, and it can be every year, there or every day of the year. I love that that's your philosophy. So then what would your ideal date or gift be? That could be any time of the year. It doesn't have to be this particular day. Lila, I'll ask you that first.
Definitely traveling, because we love to travel. And so, yeah, that's my fantasy, is to travel again. And to definitely, we love to go to like restaurants that are, somewhere interesting in a foreign country, and go visit wineries or distilleries. That was.
Be still, my heart.
Yes. I know, me too. I'm right on board. I would say I'll come next time, but that's your date. So, so Angela, how about you? What's your ideal date or gift?
So I'm definitely going to echo Lila with the traveling, because especially now more than ever, because we've missed out on so many trips that we had planned. But I will say for us, it's always about the experience rather than that actual physical gift. And now, again, as we're getting older, we're realizing that the stuff, all that stuff, right, that you've always wanted, that's not as important as the experiences that you can have with your loved ones. So whether that's us going somewhere new, like again, a restaurant, or maybe just visiting a new, it's funny because before COVID, we would just kind of like get in the car and be like, oh, let's go to a town we've never been to before. And we would just kind of go and explore. We'd set like some kind of like a radius, and we would just drive, and then we'd find somewhere to eat, kind of like walk around, visit the shops. And we miss that. So I think for us, it's definitely going to be more about creating those memories, as a family, whether it's my husband and I, or we include the kids. And that's another thing too with the kids. They absolutely love those adventures, that we take. And I know that they're going to hold on to those and remember those as they get older. So I think that's definitely ideal. And especially when he comes home and says, all right, I'm not telling you where we're going, we're just going to go somewhere. And I'm just like, yes, please, let's go. Let's do it. So I think that's definitely like the best way to spend the time.
That's so fun. I love that he's spontaneous and surprises you like that. And
I
you're right,
know,
you
that's
can involve the
awesome.
kids. Yeah, I mean the kids, that's good because they're seeing the love, they're feeling the love, and that'll shape them as they grow up too, with their ideas of how experiences may be more important to them as well than just the material possessions. And I'm the same. It's all about people and places. If you can give me experiences, memories, that's what I value the most. Yeah, my boyfriend lives on the exact opposite side of the world in Australia, and they shut their borders in March of last year. So we haven't even seen each other in this last year. And so my ideal date would just be flying and meeting him somewhere, whether it's him coming here, me going there. I know. So it doesn't have to be anything over the top, but and people would look at me and they'd say, well, how do you afford this relationship? That's expensive. And yeah, we don't get to see each other all the time. We do have video chats, which is free, thank goodness. Like, I love the technology that exists. But right. I also, I have credit cards that have air miles, and I use those for everything and then pay off my balances in full at the end of the month. So I'm not paying interest. There's no carryover. And then I just keep racking up miles upon miles. And that's really enabled me to, basically put my money to use in the best of ways. So I'm able to see him without, overspending or without living outside my means. So, yeah. So hopefully.
Well, Lila and I will be more than happy to escort you to Australia when the time comes.
Sure. Well, you can come with me. We'll have a kangaroo meet and greet. I have fed a kangaroo now, so that was on the bucket list, and I fed a koala, and yeah, and those are the things I remember, and that's definitely what I value the most. So look at the three of us, let's travel. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. That's so sweet. I love it.
Yeah. Well, so what sort of, okay, we talked about self-care in the beginning. So we talked about how saving money is self-care, but maybe there's something else you also invested in for you that's self-care that has been a purchase that you really have been proud of or it's helped you out. So I know for me personally, it is all about travel. It's getting those air miles. I even have a separate account, earmarks travel. Like I've named it travel, so I've got that money. And that to me, every time I put money in it and reach my goals, makes me feel really good. So that's what
Yeah.
I do for self-care and money. How about you, Lila?
I mean, we definitely we have a travel account, but I guess for more immediate self-care, because we haven't been able to travel right now, I occasionally, okay, I'm a sucker for like limited edition candles and like, like when every season when there's like a new scent, like, ooh, peppermint or whatever, that is what I buy myself. My husband jokes because I have to have my hand soap and my dish detergent and my kitchen spray have to match, and they're always seasonal. So it's like, if it's like vanilla peppermint or pumpkin spice or whatever, I always have to have matching candles, hand soaps, and other things. So that's the little thing that I do for myself. And I also, of course, invest in good dark chocolate and in and in sparkling beverages.
I love it. I love your priorities. They're so in line with mine. I've even got a scented Kindle here too. I do the same thing. And even now too, like I enjoy getting bath bombs or salts or something just because I'm not going out to spas right now. I'm not doing a lot of the things I would do. So I keep trying to create that at-home environment. And even one of my sons for Christmas gave me one of those gel eye masks that you can put in the fridge and chill. And I got a foot massager. Yeah, so there's been a lot of self-care purchases that I use all the time. How about you, Angela? I know what your answer is going to be.
Well, I just have to mention that I'm loving the comments. Kate Harrell already knows me so well, and I think I'm pretty sure I mentioned this at our last Facebook Live, and it is my Peloton because, I have always been the kind of person that needs to have movement in her life. Like I just need to have a way to burn that stress. So we are in the middle of a pretty brutal winter here in New Jersey. And I am, as much as I like to get outdoors and breathe in the fresh air, I'm not going to get out there and run for miles and miles and miles. So, and not to mention with this whole pandemic and the lockdown, that Peloton really came in handy. So for me, it's all about self-care for myself. It's about being active and just really moving my body. I get extremely cranky. Like, how people say, oh, I get cranky if they're like hungry. No, I get really cranky if I didn't get my workout in. So I just really am.
This is true. This is very true.
And I need to really start my day with that movement and just having the ability to say, self-care is not selfish. And I wish more people would feel that way about, and again, this has nothing to do with just saying, oh, buy a Peloton. No, it's about just moving and doing what makes you feel like in that zone, So for me, yeah, I will say that was the best investment that I made for myself. Obviously gyms are closed now. So if I really relied on that, I would be very cranky right now. Especially with the 30+ inches of snow outside my door. So I'm very grateful for that.
God, I feel bad. I'm in Florida right now. I'm like, I have my fan on right now.
Well, I am kind of hot between the candles and I love the changes of season, but this is a little ridiculous right now.
Yeah, I like to visit the changes of season. I told my husband we can travel to them, but he still likes the change of season. And in Virginia, it's been pretty cold, so.
Well, I can't say much there. I'm sorry. I hope you guys stay warm. So,
okay, Jackie, moving on.
I'm like, Oh, all right. Well, so since we talked a little bit about gift giving and, material items versus experiences, have you ever received a bad gift?
Well, I have a story. It's not necessarily, it's not about me per se, although it is sort of, but my dad was notorious for giving really, really bad gifts to my mom. And one of the first gifts he gave her when they were like first married for Valentine's Day, he gave her a shoe shine kit.
Oh no, did he end up on the couch?
So that was sort of like a family joke. And I told my husband about it. And it wasn't like right away, but it was a few years later. I opened, and I can't even remember what holiday it was for. I don't know if it was for Valentine's Day or not. I don't think it was, but anyway, I opened, and my husband had bought me a shoe shine kit. He thought it was funny, but yeah, my dad was like the worst gift giver ever. But my husband is kind of hit or miss. He has given me some really bad gifts. When we were first going out, he went to the PX and bought me like a man's sweater that yeah.
Oh, God.
But then I will say that he also gave me a super, super thoughtful gift. I had a poster in my closet rolled up that I had bought years before, and I had never framed it, and it was just sitting in my closet, and I didn't even realize it, but that he went in and he took it somewhere, and he got it framed and gave me the framed poster. It was so amazing. It was like the best gift ever. So he did that. It was a total surprise. I didn't know he had even gone in there and done that. And then probably the second best gift he ever gave me was he painted. I had taken the kids away for a few days to see my mom when we were stationed in Georgia, and I came home and he had painted. That was very exciting. He painted the room. I mean, painted the hallway and the yeah, it was awesome.
That's really nice. That's really thoughtful. And I'm glad he turned it around after that sweater from the PX.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really ugly man's sweater too.
Oh, well, and I will say, I know we were talking about how much we love experiences, but at the same time, there are some perks to having some material goods. This, for example, this was a gift that my grandfather gave to my grandmother. They were married for, gosh, nearly 70 years. And this was an anniversary gift, and it's a heart diamond, and she gave it to me, which I thought is really special. So for me, it's more than just a necklace, like it's their symbol of my grandparents. Right. And so sometimes there are things like that you are able to share and pass on. And there's a lot of worth and value to that as well. Gosh, shoe shine kit though. Watch, we're all three going to get one again. No, you don't need another one, Lila. Oh gosh.
Well, I'd love it for the viewers to share what's the worst gift they got. That'd be fun to see.
Yes, I would love to hear. I would love to hear that.
Share. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see who wins.
Right. Well, and we can talk about maybe good gifts we've given or received. I feel like I'm going to talk about my kids for a second. When they were both babies and got their Social Security card, the first thing I did was go to the bank and establish a savings account for them. And the whole principle was that we would transfer money automatically to their accounts every month, and it would total $1,000 per year per kid. And then that way, by the time they were 18, they would have $18,000 plus interest. And they didn't even know about this for years and years. I say years, they're only 8 and 10. It feels like sometimes it's been years and years. But when I told them, they were like, that's so amazing. You've got money waiting for us. And it's just gaining interest. And I think that was such a neat gift because, with kids and baby stuff and toys, they just outgrow everything so quickly. So I thought, what can I give them with longevity that's going to actually appreciate, and then in the future they'll be able to benefit from it. So
definitely, that's a great idea. And you can even open up a 529 account for kids to save for college and have family like grandparents, instead of getting them some kind of toy or something, they could give them money for college. It's a great idea.
I love that, because it's like you can only get the same toy so many times, or they have so much, and then we end up just purging it or getting rid of toys that
Exactly.
they'll
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
later. Yeah. So, do either of you have a gift that you gave that you feel was like you really hit the nail on the head, or a gift that you received that was really special?
Huh. I am definitely, well, wait a minute. Just wait 1 second, because on our Facebook comments, we have here that someone has received a vacuum cleaner for her first wedding anniversary.
From her husband
Please tell me it was from it was not from your husband.
or your mother-in-law. That would also be better.
Now.
Oh, and Kate, thank you for the compliment on my hair. It keeps
Oh, Kate.
it's frizzy, it's like humid, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I'm like, oh. So you guys have snow, I have humidity.
I was gonna say, and you're in the humidity. Well, I guess it's not too humid in Florida now, but still.
It is.
Is it?
That's Tallahassee in the Panhandle. It's like always humid. I don't know. Oh, thank you. A vacuum though. Yeah, I don't know about that. I really don't
Shoe
think I ever
shining kit
vacuumed.
vacuum cleaner. I don't know, guys. What do you think?
Well, that was the kind of minefield that my dad walked until we were old enough as kids to help give him advice on what to get my mom. He would always do things like get her, the
She
kind
said
of
it
like
was-
household gift,
Well, I mean, I guess it's practical. She said, yes, indeed, it was her husband that bought her the vacuum. So,
But sometimes you just want something. I'm quoting the movie Love Actually because it's my favorite movie, but you want something you want. You don't want something you need. Like there's sometimes it's that extra special something, not something you're going to use every day. Because I usually just purchase whatever I'm going to use every day, So
Yeah.
get something
For
just
sure.
a little above and beyond.
You walk the fine line. Like my husband he doesn't want to be told what I want, but he doesn't necessarily know what I really, I don't know. So it's like the fine line. So you have to kind of hint. And then when you have kids that are old enough, you can use them as tell daddy that I want.
I feel, and I feel like it's funny because this reminded me of like that one year that we said, all right, we're not going to get anything for each other. Let's get something for the house. Okay. And then of course my husband's like, well, how about we get, and mind you, we have plenty of televisions in this house. Okay. Let's get a new, whatever 70-inch screen TV. I'm like, oh, is that for the house? Who's it really for? Is that for you? Is it for us? Like, and I love to watch movies. I mean, we that's like kind of like our thing, movie nights. But it's like, I don't think that's more for you.
Actually, a great idea though, because instead of just getting each other gifts, you could go in together and say, hey, what do we want for the two of us, or like for the family? And then you just I think that's a good idea if it is something
Well, we've done things like board games or video games that we all would like to play, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's really
for
good.
sure.
All right. Well, great. Let me see. So we've talked about mostly really, really good things. I know sometimes money can cause stress in relationships, though. We kind of did kick it off a little bit. Angela and I talked about me, having debt in the beginning, you starting, with a really expensive wedding. And has there ever been an issue where money's caused problems, or you've disagreed about money with your significant other?
Yeah, I mean, here's the interesting thing. I think at least for us, we argue whether we have it or we don't. Okay, so we would stress and fight, early on in our marriage when we were broke. But now, we're in a different, situation in our lives. And I think some of the great fights we have always kind of have to do with money. My husband definitely spends more than I think we should spend. And he's really big into like tech stuff, video games, like televisions. And that's great. He works hard. However, a lot of the arguments and, disagreements we have typically do have to do with how we're going to spend. Like, for instance, like it's tax season. We're going to get a refund, right? How are we going to spend that? Are we going to invest it? Are we going to save it? Are we going to put it in our vacation fund when we're actually able to get out? So that's kind of like a pending argument. Like we're just kind of like, all right, well, let's not argue about it because we haven't received it yet. We'll just wait till it gets deposited and then let it sit
Then we'll
for a
argue.
while, right? Yeah, let it sit for a while and then we'll circle back on this. So yeah, I gotta say that for us, it doesn't really necessarily matter, whether we're struggling or whether it's always, we don't agree with certain things. He likes to go to like the store and buy like lots of like knickknacks, and that drives me crazy. Like I just like, do you really need another face mask? Like he has at least 100 cloth face masks right now, but he likes the ones with the different like characters and the different sayings on it. I have like 7, one for each day of the week that I can wash. So to me, it's like stop buying face masks. So yeah, it's fun sometimes. The silly things we fight about.
Yeah, I mean, of course, after, almost 25 years of marriage, we have fought plenty of times about things, and a lot of them are about money. And I know that, we had a famous fight where I'm trying to remember, I think our kids were little, and we had a fight, and my husband like kind of slammed out of the house, and he went to the sporting goods store and bought this like piece of exercise equipment. And it was this like giant piece of exercise equipment that cost several $100s at the time. We had like hardly any money, so that was a big issue. But it also was like I'm a neatnik, and I hated like having this giant thing in the corner, of whatever guest room we had or whatever. And so it became this like object that we would sit. It would sit whenever we moved, it would be in the corner of the guest bedroom, and it'd be like, that was the thing that we had to fight about. We finally, our last PCS, we got rid of it. I did it. I gave it to somebody. On Facebook, I was like, because we were moving, and we knew that this house that we were moving into was smaller. So a kid that was going to go off to, I think, West Point took it to work out on. But that fight was what was kind of precipitated us into eventually having our own kind of discretionary accounts, so that we each had some freedom to spend, because, my husband kind of was like, me trying to tell him how to spend, money, and, me being, we each decided that we needed to have our own money. And I think that's really important. So, ever since then, we've each had our own small discretionary account that we each have some money put in each month, and then we can't say anything. If he wants to buy some, what I think is, stupid video game or exercise equipment, then I can't say anything because it's his money. And if I want to buy, a book or whatever I want, a scented candle or whatever it is I want to buy, then he can't say anything.
Do you guys have a limit, Lila, as to how much you can spend without discussing it?
Well, that's a separate, thing. Cause like his discretionary account, if he wants to spend whatever is in his money, in his account, that's fine. But yes,
as long as it's in that, right.
Yeah, because there's no way on any big purchase that we would not consult each other. I've actually known couples that have bought cars without the other partner knowing. Yeah. And that is like, I can't imagine.
Well, and I love that idea of the discretionary account. Is so you kind of have a yours, mine, and ours, I assume, is kind of
right.
And that's a really good plan. And then that way everyone's got some freedom, some autonomy. I had a lot of friends who I met when I was on base, who they had totally different viewpoints on money. Like, say she came from a family that was scrimp, save, generic brands, and he had to buy the latest truck, the latest motorcycle, the latest this and that. And I watched a lot of couples struggle because they had just varying views on money, or one had very expensive taste. Someone once said, oh, he has champagne taste on a beer budget. Mm-hmm. And so it can cause a lot of stress. So I think that's a really practical solution, to have your own accounts, to also have a limit. And oh gosh, Angela, what was it you just said? Oh, you're going to fight with money or without, like either way. But if you can fight there, and you can, kind of keep your wits about you, or go to your own corners, or have some sort of guidelines or rules in place, or maybe a big goal that you're both working towards, whether it's retirement or that trip, I think that can help put things into perspective so you can stay on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
we say that a lot here at Military Saves, don't we? About our goals and what we're saving for and why it's important to have that plan. So, yeah, there's a reason for that, right?
Absolutely. And I love seeing couples work together on this. I think that's really good. We have a saver story coming up very soon about a couple who retired very, very young. And it's because they made choices together as a team from the get-go and decided to stay committed to that. So look for that soon.
Oh, I can't wait. I love those saver stories. Sometimes I read those and I'm like, ooh, I got to step up my savings game.
Yes. Well, I can tell you, since I'm not spending on flights, 2 and 3 times a year, international flights,
Right.
I've actually, since getting the job here with you guys, I thought, oh, let me just beef up my retirement accounts. I've just been putting it in there for now.
Good for you.
And I feel really good about that. Like, that is some self-care right there. And I've been bragging to my parents. I've been bragging to my man. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just saved up X amount of money. So I think it's good. I guess you can just adapt. You can keep your goals going, but sometimes it might change depending on your stages in life, what's happening in the world, priorities for kids. But as long as you're talking about it and you can come to an agreement and get on the same page, it doesn't have to be something that is difficult. It can be something that just works to your advantage. It's just to get you what you want, really.
And I love that you bring that up, Jackie, about how things change, right? And it's okay. Things change and you can adjust that plan and you can revisit it at other times. So people are so hard on themselves, right? Like, there's just so much pressure being put on these different life cycles and where you are in your life. So it's very important to recognize that. And like you said, as long as you're open and honest and have the conversations about it, it's okay. You can get back to, where you need to be or where you want to be. You'll get there. It's a process.
And don't compare yourself to others, because I think that's something that we all do. And like when I remember, my sisters were 10 and 11 years older than I was. And I would always, when we were first married, I would compare where we were very struggling to where my sister was with her husband. And, we were not in the same place. They were, much older and further on in their careers than we were. So you can't compare yourself to others. It just will make you very dissatisfied, with where you are.
Right.
And maybe make you spend for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Yeah. For sure. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they say. So I think that is really good.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got enough money and you're secured, you're got a roof over your head, like, you can make things work, and you can work together either for yourself with self-care or with your spouse as a team to say, okay, what do we want? And really just work towards those goals together. And again, and Military Saves Pledge to get you started.
Yeah. And Kimberly, thank you for your comments. She says that communication is the key to a healthy financial relationship. You have to talk about it.
Definitely.
Well, you do. And money is one of those taboo topics that many of us were told not to talk about, or it's the root of all evil, or if you want more, you're greedy. And a lot of us were just indoctrinated with this. And so we don't talk about it. And then we hide things, or we mismanage it, or we don't speak to a financial advisor. And we just want you to be comfortable with it. So that's one of the goals with these chats, where we're just going to be very authentic and real with you. And we're not here saying, oh, we're perfect, we've done everything right every step of the way. No.
No, not here.
Not here. We're very real. And yes, Lila's got some phenomenal credentials when it comes to financial planning. Angela and I probably have some scrappy street smarts from mistakes.
What is that? School of Hard Knocks?
School of Hard Knocks. Yeah. We're probably both in the same graduating class there.
Yeah, seriously. Lila, actually, that reminds me, Lila, you had an interesting statistic that you needed to share with us this evening. Remember?
Oh, I looked it up. That I wanted to know how much the average person spends on Valentine's Day in America, and it's $165. They said this year. and it's down a little bit from last year because of the pandemic. But, you know, I thought that was that's a lot of money when you consider it's the average across all of America, and some of
Right.
America is probably not celebrating, you know, probably too young to celebrate Valentine's Day. So, I still think that people are, they're still kind of maybe falling prey to that, you know, doing what they think they should do based on what they see on advertising. But, you know, I don't know that you don't have to spend $165 to have, to show someone that you care about them.
Well,
Perfect.
Kimberly just put a comment and says that her hubby is cheap. So that's not a bad thing.
It's not.
I-
My
Yes and
man,
no.
my man has expensive taste, and I'm not used to that. He's bought me brand new bags, fancy watches, like all these things, and I'm always like,
How much did you
and
spend?
she's like, it's fine, I've got you. And so we're kind of reconciling this that difference in this new relationship, and it's not caused any problems, but it just shows you that you get this meeting of the minds, and it depends on how you were raised, how much you've earned, if you've
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
and as long as you can come together, I'm actually coming to love it. I mean, I'm getting roses and Godiva chocolate. It's like not just some, you know, I'm thinking, okay, it's new for me, but I'll also admit that made me at first I was like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
fancy and so expensive. You know, do we really have to do this? But that's his way, and it works out, and no one's hurting for cash or anything. But it's just another one of those. Just talk about it, really, and I
Right.
think that's what it all boils down to. So.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I think that about sums it up, unless we had any other. You know what? Actually, you both gave me some really good tips, and it's funny. We were talking beforehand about travel. That seems to be our one thing we would do the most. Like, we would love to travel either by ourselves, with our loved ones, with our families. That's what we would, you know, it's what I think everybody's fantasizing about right now.
Yeah.
But both of you had really good tips on travel. Do you care to share a couple of those? Maybe Lila, you want to go first?
Well, one thing that I love to do, because I do love to travel, and when we were stationed in Europe, we went to 37 countries in 36 months. So we were I think I've been to 51 countries. But we always, I always would make sure that I subscribe to the online newsletters and the social media accounts for all of the big like hotel chains and airlines and everything, so that I would know when there would be sales, if they were having like a BOGO or something. So that was one thing. And then another thing that I always do when, and I do this at home too, is I always look on sites like Groupon or Living Social and try to get good deals that way. You can get some really great experiential kind of deals. My daughter got her scuba license from me finding a Groupon deal for that. And that was a birthday present for her. And we've also had somebody else's birth, because I give experiential gifts. We also, my daughter had a helicopter ride for her another birthday. So
Wow.
that was very exciting. And so always look on Groupon and sites like that. And I think I'm trying to remember what my other tip was. I do a lot of military discounts there are out there, and you have to know to ask, especially with things like travel, like getting free luggage, or some airlines have military fares, but you have to call them directly to get them, and they don't like kind of openly advertise that. So always ask.
Yeah.
How about you, Angela?
Yep. So I think that's very similar to mine, Lila, and I think it's because talking to you a lot about like the travel, and obviously you've traveled way more than I have, but I definitely ask more for military discount. My husband is not a fan of it. He doesn't like to ask for it, but I'm always like, it doesn't hurt to ask. What's the worst they can say is no? Right? Like, I think that's just a service member thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
My husband
um,
doesn't like it either, but yeah, I
yeah,
ask.
well, the spouse steps in and says, well, wait a minute. But one of the things that I've learned to do, when you can responsibly use credit cards, and I know, again, disclosure, you have to responsibly use credit cards, right? You have to be able to afford to use the credit card. One thing that I do is we have a certain credit card that gives us amazing cash rewards or travel awards and mileage. So if we want to travel somewhere, obviously it's been a while since we've been able to, but we always make sure, okay, we're going to save up X amount of money in our savings account for this trip. However, we're going to use that credit card. It has a lower interest rate. And then we'll do it on the card because we just get so many more extra perks and benefits for using the credit card. And then, of course, we'll turn around and we'll pay the credit card off. It's not something we were always able to do, unfortunately, because, we were young and we were broke and we really didn't know how to use credit cards. So I always, always say, do your research, make sure that you have the money, to do it. If not, then it's just, you don't want to go into debt. It's just not worth, stressing. And then again, that's not a form of self-care. Debt is not a form of self-care at all. So yeah, no. So that's not what we want to do. But yeah, I think for us, it's always about just trying to find the best deal. The internet is so fantastic. You could just really just explore and read reviews and just see everything that's out there. And don't hit purchase so quickly. Just go out there and just really compare and shop around.
That's really, really great advice. And I definitely feel like there's going to eventually be a travel boom for that industry once everything's changed a little bit. So it's good to have some tips now, start saving up now if that's a priority for you. And I think this has been fantastic. We've covered so many topics tonight about love and money. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our team at Military Saves. We would love to hear your stories below. So please do feel free to comment. And we thank you all so much for tuning in. Angela and Lila, thanks for talking with me tonight on Love and Money. This has been a lot of fun. I look forward to our next evening money chat. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Valentine's Day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a good night. Thank you.